So you probably know Griffin Armament for making suppressors, but did you know they also make ARs and a bunch of different AR parts? Well, in this video, we have a fully kitted out Griffin Armament product, and we're gonna be seeing how reliable it is, give you a general overview of it, as well as give you my general thoughts and opinion on, well, maybe if this should be your next AR or not. With that, let's go ahead and jump right into it.
Not Slytherin. Not Slytherin.
Gryffindor!
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Ooh, I've been on the flex since flex on. Neighborhood all in your eardrums. I ain't never scared like Bone Crush. Boy, I got God, don't fear none. My line busy, take no calls. Feels like I don't have no flaws. Snakes in the grass, cut those off. Yo, squad shitty, my bros raw. No breaks, we go, 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 go. Throw shade, that's a no, 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 no. Go high, go low, low, low. Like spinning in a 644. Cash money like 504. Ball like AD24. No sleep, need more, more, more. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car.
First up, full disclosure here, Griffin Armament did reach out to me and they were kind enough to provide this whole setup here. So they sent the Mark II, their GPM scope mount, their 1:8 Griffin LPVO, as well as here on the front, we have a Griffin M4 SDL with the gate lock. That being said, the 500 rounds I used for this testing and review were provided by myself. But all that being said, my goal is to keep this as unbiased as possible and share with you my actual thoughts and feedback. Jumping right into it, the specs of the Mark II. You can find all these specs on the website. Going over a couple main ones here. This is the Griffin Armament Mark II 12.5-inch pistol AR. That's a pistol. We got the brace on it. Main highlights of this is a suppressor optimized AR from Griffin. It also features a fully ambidextrous lower receiver. To show you real quick, you have your normal mag release on the right, as well as you have this lever right here. If I hold that up and pull the charging handle back, it'll actually lock the bolt to the rear. And then when I'm ready, I can flick that down with my finger and the bolt goes forward. Over on the other side, you have a mag release here on the bottom, as well as you have a extended bolt release here on the top. It also has an ambidextrous safety selector from Griffin as well. Other thing to note, even though this is a suppressor optimized AR, Griffin does not like you playing with their suppressor optimized AR. What I mean by that is this does not have a adjustable gas block. It's actually a fixed gas block. In tandem with the fixed gas block that they have tuned, they also have their SOB or suppressor optimized buffer inside on the rear, and these two in tandem are going to give you a reliable suppressed and unsuppressed shooting experience. Again, straight from the website there. Other things to note, it does come with these grips on the front, and guys, these grips are awesome. I'm actually going to pick some more of these up myself to run on some of my other setups. They have great grip, great texture, as well as they do a great job of mitigating heat from what I found during my test. Another thing to discuss as a suppressor optimized AR is they have what's called the Griffin Armament Snatch charging handle. It is ambidextrous as well, the whole gun is, and this charging handle is designed to help eliminate any gas escaping through the charging handle gaps, so that way there's less gas back in the shooter's face. Next up, let's give you a quick parts overview of what I was running on this whole setup for this test and review. At the front here, we have a Griffin Armament gate lock muzzle device, which sure enough allows us to mount our M4 SDL gate lock suppressor. I'll be coming out with a separate video just on this suppressor, but spoiler alert, the gate lock and the M4 SDL, oh dude, this thing is awesome. Moving back, we have the Griffin Armament grips that I talked about earlier that are also phenomenal. On the side over here, mounted to the top of our Picatinny, is a QD mount for our sling. This piece here is actually from Griffin Armament as well. Up top, we have the Griffin Armament GPM scope mount. And I'm gonna be honest, this has to be one of the best mounts I've ever used. Reason being, obviously it has a solid lock up to the rail. You get solid equal tension on your scope. You have 3 screws here, 3 screws here, as well as on the bottom side, you have 3 screws here and 3 screws here. So again, giving you equal tension. But then also on the left side, the top on a 45 degree, as well as all the way on the right side, they give you these screw holes. So that way you can mount a offset red dot, maybe a rangefinder, or anything else that you want to your scope mount. Speaking of, you can see I mounted an offset red dot. I picked up from Griffin the 1913 pick rail that goes into those screws. And then on that pick rail, I mounted a Cyelee Bull X Pro red dot, which as as you can see, is just a massive red dot and can definitely take a beating on a rifle. The lower receiver is all just Griffin parts that come on the Mark II. The grip on this is also from Griffin. It's called the A3 grip. And then the trigger on this is, well, sadly, it's just a mil-spec trigger. I'm not sure if Griffin makes this in-house or if it's just mil-spec triggers that they throw in these, but we'll talk more about that trigger later in the video. On the rear then is a SB Tactical SB A3 brace, because again, this is the pistol one. But Griffin also offers a bunch of different barrel lengths for the Mark II, as well as options if you want to do a pistol, or if it's a 16-inch barrel, it would just be a rifle with a stock as well. Other things that I had running on this gun, well, the only other thing was a sling. And of course, I had to get a M81 Woodland sling to match the setup here. And this is actually from HRT Tactical. And guys, I'm gonna be honest, this is probably one of the best lightweight, affordable slings on the market. I picked this one up myself, and I have no complaints with this on the setup. Moving to the next part here, the range results. So I took this guy out to the range and put 500 rounds through it to test its reliability. To start the test off, I wanted to run the gun unsuppressed, make sure it works, and also zero in my optics. And in the first 2 mags, running it unsuppressed, well, here's how it went. Oh no. But we actually had a failure to feed on, what was that, like our 10th round? In the first 60 rounds, I had about 6 to 8 malfunctions, all of them being failures to feed. 2 times I had the bullet actually get stuck in there where it's a visual failure to feed, and all the other times it would fire the round, but then it would not pick up that next round from the magazine and load it into the chamber. So I would just pull the trigger, it would click, there was no round in the chamber. I would then rack the bolt, the round would get back in, and then, well, the same thing would just happen again. So almost turned it into a bolt action. Not off to a great start. So seeing the malfunctions I was having, I said, you know what, screw it. Let's throw the suppressor on this and let's see if it runs suppressed, because again, this is a suppressor optimized platform. So I threw our Griffin Armament M4 SDL on this, and what do you know? For the remaining 420 or 430 rounds, the gun ran flawless. So that's when I thought to myself, maybe this gun is only meant to run suppressed. Because again, this is a advertised suppressor optimized AR from Griffin. But then I also thought to myself, no, that's just dumb. What's going on here? Come to find out, if you haven't noticed in the video here, you can see I have a nice rattle can M81 Woodland camo on this Griffin Mark II. It did not come from the factory like that, folks. The way to spray paint a gun is step 1, degrease your rifle. And when I spray painted this rifle, that's exactly what I did. I put a crap ton of degreaser on this, and my guess a lot of it went into the bolt and the chamber. Spray painted my gun, got it looking all Instagram ready, and instead of lubing it up before my 500 round range test, well, I just forgot to do that. So after having the issues running it unsuppressed, adding the suppressor, the gun ran flawless. I went back, cleaned the entire bolt, cleaned the chamber, cleaned the whole gun, re-lubricated the whole setup, and what do you know? The gun did run just fine unsuppressed. So, a couple takeaways from this. Again, this setup is suppressor optimized. What I think happened was, from a gas perspective, this gun is set up to barely run when unsuppressed. And you can even see in the injection pattern, I had a great 3 or almost 4 o'clock ejection with this setup. And if you undergas the system or have a very dirty or very dry bolt, well, the gun's just not gonna cycle fully and it's not gonna pick up that next round in the mag. So you have almost like an undergas system with a dry or dirty bolt. When your bolt is lubricated properly, the gun is gonna run great unsuppressed, great ejection pattern, and then when you add your suppressor to it, you have the least amount of gas already in your AR platform, so that way it reduces the overgassing that a suppressor causes in this specific setup. So the malfunctions I had, I do not hold it against the Mark II. I say that is 100% first shot tactical Brian user error, because again, I took it back out to the range, cleaned this up, lubricated it up, and it ran just fine. And then also, obviously running it suppressed. Yeesh. Well guys, I put 420 rounds suppressed on a dry bolt and this gun survived. Well, I think that actually speaks pretty highly of this setup. Oh, I'm so sorry, gun. Now, the only other issue I had when running the gun suppressed with the dry degreased bolt, for the majority of the test, I used Magpul Gen 2 mags. On the last round, the bolt would not lock open, indicating that that mag was empty. Looking back on this, I think this is again because the gun was degreased, and in this ambi controls that Griffin has on their lower, it needed to be lubricated up for this to actually, well, function properly. When I went back a second time and lubricated the gun and ran it unsuppressed, I only tested about 3 mags on it, but the bolt did lock back every time. So again, I'm going to accredit the bolt not locking back from me putting all the degreaser on the gun and not having the system lubed up properly. So, in conclusion from my test here, while we did have some malfunctions, I would accredit both of those to user error and me having the gun completely degreased with no lube on it. Unsuppressed, the malfunctions we got those corrected by lubricating the rifle up. And then as far as that bolt catch release that I just talked about, same thing there. Once I lubed this all back up, didn't have any issues, but I'll keep you guys updated if I do experience that issue again as I continue to use this setup on the channel. Next up, let's do a pros and cons of the Mark II rifle in itself. Pro number 1, it is a lightweight setup. On the website, I believe they advertise this out of the box at 6 pounds 8 ounces, which for a 12.5 setup is awesome. Now, once you add a LPVO on top, offset red dot, and a suppressor, obviously this gun does get a lot heavier, but since the gun is so lightweight out of the box, it's okay to add all this, and it's still a very comfortable platform. Pro number 2, the lower receiver in my eyes is definitely the star of the show on this setup. Specifically here, this bolt release for a right-handed shooter. This is seriously the best right-handed bolt release I've experienced on an AR platform. The only one that's similar to this is the Sig Spear, or I think it's the Sig Tread. They have an ambidextrous bolt release similar to this, but comparing to some other options, here we have a Palmetto State Armory PSA Saber 15. It is an ambidextrous lower as well, but instead of it being a slide bar on the Griffin, it's actually a button right here. So to release the bolt on this setup here, once you reload, you're just gonna move your finger up, hit that button, and you're good to go. And then another option that we have is a primary weapon system lower as well. Same thing, if we lock the bolt back to the rear, we do have a bolt release here on the right side. But the only thing I don't like about this one is, well, it's really hard to hit. 1, you have to like reach up, and then 2, I'll even take the mag out to make it easier. Really hard to push with 1 finger, to be honest. You almost have to put 2 fingers up, push it, and then you can put your grip back on the gun. It does work, but not ideal. And again, when comparing it to the Mark II, dude, I'll take this one any day over these other 2. So, love that on the lower receiver. The third pro is, well, just the overall value of this thing. On paper, this thing has everything you would ever want on an AR-15. Gas-reducing ambidextrous charging handle, all ambi controls, solid grips up front, suppressor optimized, so that way you can just throw a suppressor on and it's gonna be gassed properly. And when you take all of that into consideration with the price associated with this, guys, it's almost like a no-brainer. Finding a fully ambidextrous AR under $2,000, it's tough to do these days, but Griffin Armament did it, and I think it's because all their parts are in-house now. So the value to price on this is definitely the biggest pro above all. Now, the cons for this setup, depending on who you're talking to, this list may vary. Cons some people might think is it doesn't have an adjustable gas block. It's a suppressor optimized system and I can't adjust the gas? Well, that doesn't make sense. If you think that's a valid point, then I guess it is. For me though, I understand what Griffin's doing with this. They have this set up, they have this tuned, they don't want you messing with this and making it worse. So they made this a fixed gas block, put it in tandem with their SOB buffer system, and those two together gives you the right gassed AR. Con number 2, and my biggest gripe with this gun, is the trigger. As I mentioned earlier, this is just a mil-spec trigger in it. I'm gonna be very honest, through the 500 rounds I put through this, I have not used a mil-spec trigger in a long time. Most of my setups have a Cyelee SSAE, a Cyelee 3-gun trigger with a 2.5 pound trigger pull, or some like Rise Armament one with a stupid light trigger pull as well. So switching back to a true 6.5 to almost like 7 pound trigger pull, yeesh, man, it sucked. We have such a high value, high end rifle, and I think it deserves a high end trigger in there as well. Super easy for the end user though. Buy a Cyelee SSAE, drop it in here, and then after that, you're good to go. We do have some other Griffin parts here, so real quick, want to give a pros cons of the scope mount, and this whole setup up top. The Griffin LPVO is a 1:8 Cyelee LPVO. And again, for the price point, it's not bad at all. Since this is a first focal plane LPVO, when you have it at 1 and 2 power, the reticle is just so small and the etching is just small black. And while this does have illumination, you can illuminate it red, basically impossible to see at 1x. Solution to that though, use Griffin's awesome GPM mount an offset red dot, and then that problem solved. For the LPVO, running this from 3 to all the way 8, no issues. Easy to find, easy to see from 3 to 8. I didn't get a chance to take this out past like 100 yards or anything, but from my experience, keeping it under 100 yards, it worked well. The star of the show though is this GPM mount with the ability to do like an offset red dot. Again, this is a Cyelee Bull X Pro, and at the range, it was so easy to just roll this over to the red dot. However, next time I want to switch this to the top, that way it's almost like the Trigicon setup. You keep this at 3x if you need to go out further, and then you just look up top and you have a 1x red dot. So I'm gonna change that and try it out, see which one I like better. But either way, that's the cool thing about this mount. You have a lot of options on where you wanna mount your red dot, or if you needed to mount anything else to the top as well. Last product that we have from Griffin to discuss is the M4SDL suppressor. Again, I'll have another dedicated video just on this suppressor, but keeping it short here, dude, this thing's awesome. This is my first time using their gate lock, which I was skeptical on and thought I would for sure get a baffle strike, but this gate lock works flawless, as well as the suppressor. The suppressor has what they call their EcoFlow baffles in it. There's some vents on the end here to let gases flow forward, as well as on the inside you have your baffles, but then around the baffle you can see little holes where gases can also flow forward. While it's not a 100% flow through suppressor like a Huxworks one, it definitely cuts back the gases coming back into the system, which is always nice from a shooter's perspective. And now I can definitely see why Mil-Spec Mojo runs this suppressor on his setup, because man, it just works so well. Wrapping things up here, for the people that skipped all the way to the end to see the concluding thoughts, well, welcome to the video. In conclusion, and in my opinion, this Griffin Armament Mark II has to be the highest value to price AR you can pick up to date on the market. The lower receiver from a right-hander's perspective, the bolt release is the best one I've ever used. And above all, this is a very lightweight AR from the factory. So that way, once you add a suppressor and a red dot or LPVO, it's not overweight for the setup. Downsides though is from the factory, the mil-spec trigger is, in my opinion, trash. Again, I just don't like mil-spec triggers. Simple solution, drop a Cyelee SSAE in this and you're good to go. We also learned a valuable lesson that this gun does not like to run degreased or completely dry. So if you are going to spray paint your rifle, guys, make sure and lube it back up afterwards. But also to that note, if you are running this gun suppressed and you did not lube your gun up, well, I have 100% confidence to tell you the gun will run flawlessly, because that's exactly what I did for 420 rounds. I'm an idiot. But also from that perspective, don't be an idiot. If you are going to spray paint your gun, make sure and lube it back up, like really good. Lube it up really good. Only other thing to note, if you are gonna pick one of these up or something I would change, definitely SBR it. This was the first time in a long time I've used a SBA3 brace. Normally I just SBR everything, and I came to the same conclusion that I should continue to SBR everything, because man, this thing is just so flimsy. I guess it operates well as a actual brace, but as far as getting a good third point of contact, yeah, dude, this thing sucks. If you're gonna pick one of these up and you have the funds to do it, definitely do the SBR, get a stock on the back. Hopefully this was helpful for you all. If it was, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the Griffin Armament Mark II, as well as all the other products Griffin Armament has now. Suppressors, optics, mounts. And until next time, have fun shooting, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.